Hey folks, the top 10 of the top 100. I decided to record this literally the second after I just did the top, the 20 to 11, because, well, it means they're out of the way, but also I can get on to editing them and give them to you in quick succession. But also because I want to go to the gym a bit later, and I felt like, you know what, the lighting's pretty good outside, people are starting to be quiet now, I don't need as many lights in this room, I'm in the zone, you know what, let's get both of these videos recorded at the same time, and then maybe I might be able to relax a bit on this bank holiday sweltering day. I am sweating buckets, but, hopefully this video will still come out great, and I hope this top 10 is to your liking. So, like I said, I've got my list. No new debuts. All of these are games that you will have seen last year. My number one, has it changed? You'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to say that there is... Let's see, have any of these games been outside the top 10 before? Well, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm just going to get straight into it. No other teasers, let's just go with it right now. So, my number 10. Number 10, dropped a single place. This is probably my favorite. Let's have a look. Yes, if I'm going by solely... Oh, no, there's one other. All right, my second favorite two-player only game. This is like one of the best bang for your buck games that you can get. There's one that I like slightly more in terms of its gameplay, but when I think of how cheap this game is, how few components there are, how easy it is for me to teach, this just sings so well for me. I love it to bits. It goes down well with everyone I teach it to, and most people haven't even heard of this game or haven't been able to get hold of it, but I explain it to them and then I take them through a game. I might even sit out and just let two other people play it, and as soon as they're in it, they're like, oh yeah, that clicks, and they like it, and they either go buy a copy or they just love the fact they played something a bit different. Is it on my shelf somewhere? I'm not entirely sure where it's gone, actually. I need to have a look for this game because I'm worried it might have got lost in the ether or someone's borrowed it and hasn't returned it, and that is Hanami Koji. Oh no, of course, it's in the other room with all my Emperor S4 stuff. Yes, of course. I'd be worried there for a second. Have I lost one of my favorite games? No, but no, Hanami Koji. Or Jixia Academy, or whatever the reprint is. What do you want? Do you want geisha, or do you want female or male? It's pretty much the difference between the two. It's the same artist, I think, even though I think Hanami Koji has better artwork. But pick whichever one you like. This is a brilliant two-player game. So easy. It's basically just a bunch of cards laid out in a row, and then a small deck of the various items associated with those cards. And the way it happens is that, the way you play the game is it's not victory points. Not entirely, anyway. You win by either having control of 4 geisha or enough geisha to make 11 points worth. They got different values. But the way each round plays out, and typically you will finish this in anywhere between 1 to 3 rounds, depending on how good your opponent is. But with this, and it's not like I win it all the time. I mean, I can make mistakes in this because there's some element of luck and some element of sort of getting in your opponent's head. And like I say, anybody can do well at this. But what you do is you have 4 action tiles, and these allow you to do things like tuck away cards that will be scrapped out of the round, or the I pick you choose mechanism, which is that, like one for example is I put 3 cards down in front of me, the opponent picks one, I take the other 2, and they go on the respective sides of the geisha. The idea is that each geisha has a certain number of cards related to that geisha. So, a number 3 geisha might have 3 cards with a loot on it. The geisha are all I think the idea with them is that they've all got a specific talent. So you've got one geisha that's got all the tea making stuff. You got one geisha who's got the flute, and one that's got the scrolls and stuff, writer. And the idea is that with these 4 action tiles, you do them in turn order. So you draw a card and then choose one of those tiles to do. You have to do all 4 in the round, but you pick your own order in which you do them in. And you might think, well, okay, maybe I'll just do this order all the time. No, wait a minute. The problem is, though, is that your hand size is only going up by 1 card each time. And these actions, have you give cards to your opponent. You're going to give up 3 cards to your opponent each round. But you could save 1 for later, for yourself, scrap 2 out the whole round, etc. But the earlier you do an action, the more options you have with that action, but the less information you have, because the round has barely started. But then the later you do the action, the more information you have, but the less options you have because your hand size has dwindled at that point. There's one action which lets you tuck away a card face down, you know what it is, your opponent doesn't, and you will score it along with all the other cards at the end of the round. So your own personal secret card. If you do that action first, you get to pick out of 7 cards. So you've got all the options. But I don't know which card I should save just yet. Or I've got less information on that. Okay, so maybe I'll do that tile last. But then if you do that tile last, you are literally saving the top card of the deck that you draw for the round. So you are tap decking the card that you save. It might be completely useless to you. So you think, oh, I'll do it in the middle. But then which other action are you going to do first? Which other one are you going to do last? Oh my god, my head explodes. It breaks people in a good way, when they play this, because they're sort of going, okay, what is it you're banging on about? What is it? Oh, and then the revelation hits them and they see the cleverness of how this system works. Ignoring the fact that the game is gorgeous to look at, the geisha artwork is beautiful for something that's like 3 2s, 2 3s, a 4 and a 5, so how many is that? Like 7 geisha in a row and a bunch of other item cards. There's not many components in this, but oh my god, it looks gorgeous. Small little container, is easily portable. Perfect tiny game. I think Sam Healy put it on the top 10 tiny games that the Dice Tower did recently, and no surprise there. This is one of the best tiny games I can think of. It is one of the best bang you for your buck games I can think of, because even though you'll see all the cards and you do the same thing each game, the person you're playing with, getting in each other's head, it's just so satisfying. I never get bored of this game, playing it or just teaching it. I love to show it off. I literally bought it on a whim because Sam Heady kept raving on about it in other top 10 lists, and I thought, I gotta find this game, and it was hard to find in the UK for a while. Finally got myself a copy, played it, and instantly fell in love with this game. It's dropped a single place, whatever. Who cares? This is still a top 10 game. At worst, it might go into my top 20, but I adore this 2-player game. This is what first cemented me onto I want to check out more by Empress 4, and they release a lot of good games. A lot of these really great tiny games, and the occasional decent big one as well, but this is easily my favorite Empress 4 game. If you have not tried this one, and you love 2-player games, strongly urge you to pick up Hanami Koji. Gateway level, easy to learn, but it will blow their minds for the first couple of games as they sort of learn it's one of those ones that rewards repeat plays. So much fun with this Hanami Koji. Okay, number 9 has dropped a place as well from 8, and this one is the other 2-player only game I was just talking about. Yes, there is one slightly better than Hanami Koji, and we're talking slightly here. Every game on this, top 20? Yeah, every single game in the top 20 is something I rate a 10. Anything in my 20 to 11 could easily turn up in my top 10. They're just so... ranking this was so difficult when it got to these games, because I'm like, which one do I like more out of these two? It's so hard to tell. But this is favorite 2-player only game. I mentioned 7 Wonders at 11. 7 Wonders Duel. Yeah, okay, you knew it had to come at some point. I love 7 Wonders, but the 2-player version in 7 Wonders sucks. That dummy player, it's so bad. Very few people in the world I've heard say like it. So what did they do? They made a 2-player only version of it, and it kind of... I don't know if it was the one that started it all, but it certainly paved the way for all these other 2-player version games of all these other big games. Cave versus Cave, and the Imhotep one, and was it the Duel, and Le Havre, the Inland Port, and stuff like that. I swear it was one of the first ones that did it. But love this. This takes the core element of 7 Wonders that you love, with all those the green cards, the blue cards, the yellow cards, but makes the drafting work with 2 players. You are still building up a tableau in front of you and building wonders and getting victory points or resources, but there's a couple of tweaks. Firstly, science and military are auto win conditions. Get enough science or get enough military and you can just win the game outright without any points. So you could be falling behind on the points, but if you can pull off that military victory, you can still get that win. And if it goes to the end and no one gets that, you still count up points. So there's 3 ways to win. Typically it will end up on points, but I have seen science and military victories happen. In fact, I have caused a fair few science victories and being the victim of the occasional military one as well. In fact, the tournament one with the trophy that I used in the last episode, the Seven Wonders duel game I played on that, it came down to the last card. We didn't know what it was, and it was a case that I needed a green card to win by science, and my opponent, Claire, she needed a red military card to dominate me. At the end of the day, it ended up being a green card, so I won by science. Turned out I would have won by points anyway, but we had no idea. You know, I think the points were fairly close, but oh my god, it was tense. You know, it can really like throw the game for a loop. But the drafting works so well. You're not drafting with each other. You're not like, go, here's my hand of cards, there you go, here's my hand of cards. You have a layout of all these cards in some weird pattern, like, not pyramid, but like a weird structure of these cards. And the bottom ones are flipped over, and you basically take it in turns to draft from that lot. But as you take these cards, any that are face down behind it start revealing. So you're like, well, I don't want to take this card and reveal more options for my opponent, but then do I want to take that card which isn't as useful? Do I want to bank it in for money? Money is super tight in this game. You know, it's such a blast. It probably wouldn't hit my top 10 though if it wasn't for the expansion, Pantheon. Not everybody likes Pantheon, but I don't know why. I love Pantheon. It gives you these god cards which you build up throughout the game. So in the first round, you have the opportunity to put your token on this Pantheon board, which dictates how much it costs you to summon the power of various gods, whether it's your opponent's or your own. But then in the second round, you get to actually get the gods and stuff like that. And obviously from then, you then have the ability to mess up the turn order. Because normally, it's I go, you go, I go, you go, I go, you go. And the most you might be able to do is maybe go twice in a row. But other than that, you can kind of predict how the turn order is going to go. With this, though, if you activate a Pantheon God power with the money you have spare, you don't take a card. So you can, at will, mess up the turn order. And this can throw your opponent for a loop. You can have great strategic decisions with this. You can sort of like your opponent thinks, yes, I'm going to have a lot of options open to me. I don't need that card. Oh, wait, you're activating Zeus? Uh-oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, great, I'm going to have to take that card. Great tactical decisions you can make. It's not for everybody, and it does make the game a little bit more complicated, but I love the Pantheon expansion with this. That's why it just about makes my top 10. But the game in general, even if you don't have Pantheon, is still fantastic. The best two-player only game on my list. You know, you can argue some of the ones later are typically play two-player, but you can play them with other players and solo as well. This is, for a game that is only two-player, no other player count, just two-player, it is my absolute favourite. The tournament I was in, I was more interested about getting to the final to play Seven Wonders Duel than I cared about winning it. Because I don't care if I win a game or not anyway, that's just the way I am. It's why I don't get on well with min-maxers, because it's like, ooh, I can just shave off this 1 point here if I just take forever to take my turn. It drives me nuts. It's like, winning is not everything, guys. I play games to enjoy them, not to win them. You know, it's nice to stand a chance of winning and not be pseudo knocked out, but if I come second or third or fourth at the end of the day, I do not care, and neither should you.
Everybody got that?
So, yep, Seven Wonders Duel, my number 9. Number 8 has, again, fallen by a place. Starting a trend here. But this is from Pandasaurus Games and Jonathan Gilmore, and this is, it's got some of the weirdest artwork ever, like a sort of 80s retro style psychedelic artwork, but the theme of it is really good. I love the concept. I love the mix of not only worker placement, but also action selection. But a lot of it comes down to just how fun the theme is. And it is, where is it on my shelf? I know you're here. There you are, right behind me. 2 games, totally liquid, and the base set, Dinosaur Island. Oh yes, it's a long game, it's a heavy game, you never should play the short game, play it only medium or long, and, you know, with new players it can go on a bit too long for my liking at times, but with the right setup, the fact you can tailor the length of the game depending on who's playing, like if I've got 3 brand new players, I'll just play the medium game because I know it's going to take a while, but with people who know what they're doing, I'll play long. You can have this thrilling Jurassic Park, the board game. You're building a theme park with dinosaurs and roller coasters and, you know, Velociraptor fries and stuff like that. Kind of weird joke combinations. And with totally liquid thrown in, you can have marine creatures, or I can have a megalodon in my park, and all these other things you can build, and blueprints to like get you points for how you lay out your park, and end game scoring objectives that you aim for. Do you up the security in your park because you're breeding a lot of predators and carnivores? You're going to need the security, otherwise they're going to eat your people as they come to visit. Or do you go the sissy route, which I have done before, and get the herbivores? They don't generate a lot of excitement, but they're not going to eat your people either. At least they shouldn't. To be fair, if you lose somebody because of a herbivore, then I suspect that's probably because they got trampled. But still, what was the person doing? Probably their own fault. I am not going to sign no insurance claim form. It's kind of morbid when you think about it. The fact that you're happy enough to lose a couple of victory points by 2 people getting eaten at your park. I find it quite humorous in that. It's like, you're just casually going, you know what? Loss of life, whatever, it's my lawyers will take care of that. Now, about this theme park. It's so Jurassic Park, the board game, but the path to victory, what I'm aiming for changes every game. The creatures that you come up, everybody gets into the theme. They're making Jurassic Park references. Jeff Goldblum quotes coming out all the time. Everybody sort of, I aim for recipes purely because they're my favorite dinosaur. I'm always like, you will lose the game immediately. House rule, you'll lose the game immediately if you take my Velociraptor, because that Velociraptor is mine, okay? I don't care if I've had a park full of herbivores. I want Velociraptors in my park because they're awesome, and the production quality is sound. The retro 80s artwork is cool, colourful, not for everybody, but I think it's great. And you've got like metal coins, the Kickstarter version I've got is blinged out like crazy, but even the retail version of this is still really good production quality. Love this one. It just gives you that thematic sensation of building your own Jurassic Park, with it not going quite as pear-shaped as the one from the movies. So much fun. Can't wait to see if any more stuff comes out for this, although to be frank, I think it's kind of got enough content already to keep me going for till the end of time. I love this one. Probably one of the heaviest games on my list, actually. I'm trying to think. Next one's kind of medium weight. That one is medium to heavy. Yeah, this is probably the heaviest game on my list, and not by a whole top 100, heaviest favorite heavy game, if that makes sense. You know what I mean. It'll make more sense as we go through. But yeah, Dinosaur Island, love this one. Oh yeah, solid number 8. Number 7, dropped 5 places. Yes, this is kind of going slightly downhill for me lately. Not like in danger of falling off the list or anything, calm down. But, maybe it'll drop out of the top 10 at some point. Mainly because it hasn't got to the table as much as I would like, but also it has to have a specific setup for me to like it, and I just think some of these other games I've played more than it. But like I say, it's gone down 5 places, but my number 2 game, now my number 7 game, it's still a game I adore, but I need the expansion. I need preferably 4 or less players. I want expansion cards thrown in. I want certain modules used, or I could just play it solo. But it needs that expansion. It needs Tuscany, yes. Viticulture. Viticulture with Tuscany, my number 7, was my number 2. It is still one of my favourite Euro games to play. This great thematic game about winemaking, but one thing that hurts it is obviously getting it to the table, but also the fact that I want a specific setup. Because if I'm bringing my set along, I know I'm going to play it the way I want to play it. But if it turns up in a library, I don't tend to want to play their version because I know they haven't got all the bits in it. And there'll be times where I'll see it at some of these houses, like, oh, we could play Viticulture. Oh, it's just Viticulture Essential. Have you got Tuscany? No? Let's play something else. And that hurts it a bit. But I still love it. So when it's my setup, easily my number 7. This one, you are worker placement and it's winemaking. You're running your vineyard. You're starting off by planting vines, then harvesting them for grapes, crushing the grapes to make red, white, rosé and sparkling wine, filling contracts, or maybe you might decide not to do that. Maybe with some of the new structure cards, you might just have a cafe or a restaurant. You get your victory points through there. You might say, you know what, can't be bothered with contracts. I'm just going to make whatever wine I feel like and sell it cheaply or trade it off for victory points. You might go onto this little side map and build up your influence in lots of areas of France, and therefore you're able to get victory points that way. Again, a lot of this is down to the expansion. You need that new board. The new board with the 4 different seasons, multiple actions in each season, the wake up timetable which dictates turn order and what bonuses you get as the game goes on. Such a good expansion. Tuscany just made this game what it was. When I first put it on my top 100, it was I think it was number 40, and it was probably in danger of dropping because the original game is good, still really, really good, but it's lacking what it needs to be like near like a 10 out of 10 game for me, and that's what Tuscany brings to the table. I know they've done this weird thing with the Essentials versions, and certainly Viticulture Essentials is better than the original 2nd edition Viticulture, but you still need that new board. You need those Tuscany elements. They're just so good. And maybe 1 or 2 of those visitor packs, because people who hate on this game are usually like, oh, the visitors are random. You know, my game was lost because of a visitor. Yeah, there's a bit of luck in the draw in it. I get it. That happens. But there's not that long the game. It's only medium weight. And even then, the side packs that you can buy, Uwe Rosenberg did one, and there was another one, a specific one. If you use those visitor cards, as well as the advanced ones from the Tuscany expansion, then they give you multiple choice. So even if a particular action doesn't work for you, another one should. So you shouldn't have dead cards in your hand, and it shouldn't be a case of, oh, you think someone won just because they picked up good visitor cards. They're all good. You know, there shouldn't be any dead ones. So, yeah, a little bit of luck of the draw, but still love this one. The production quality is sound. I love the way it looks, the way it pops on the table. Literally, the only thing that could make it slightly better is if I had a neoprene mat for it. But, oh, love it. Love this one, but the setup requirement does drop it a little bit down my top 10. But as I say, my 2, my 7, my 10, what does it matter? It's a 10 out of 10 game. Viticulture with Tuscany. Love it. Whew, I am running out of breath here. Gotta keep it up though. Number 6 has not moved. Number 6 hasn't moved. It was my number 6 last year. It's my number 6 this year. We just talked about Journeys in Middle-earth. You know, this whole thing of a dungeon crawl with an app. This is my favorite iteration of that. You probably already know what it is anyway. There's a giant box down there. There is this crate, box, suitcase thing up here with a lot of the other components as well. It's becoming a bit of a storage like problem, but more content's coming out and I'm going to get it, whether it's DLC or just big box expansions. I'm pretty certain there's a new one coming out soon. I forget what it's called, but Mansions of Madness, get my words straight, Mansions of Madness 2nd edition. Oh yes, this is my favourite dungeon crawl style game. The Cthulhu mythos is one I love. I love the theme with Cthulhu, but with this one, the app is perfection. I told you that the Journeys to Middle-earth one was kind of 90-95%. This is 100% perfection. This is the best app that has been interwoven into the board game, hands down. Bug-free. Doesn't like skip on me or anything, doesn't crash. It's super simple. The bookkeeping with like monster stats and how you do combat is handled by the app. So you can literally just get the tiles out, do the scenario on the thing, get your characters, their initial starting items, and you're good to go. Love this one solo and with a group, although it does take a bit of a long time in a group. Maybe I don't want to play this with more than 3 players at a time, but I tend to control 4 investigators by myself because I think the game's more balanced at 4 players. There is a slight balancing issue with less players. You don't get to cover as much ground, but oh yes. Theme dripping off this. You do little puzzles, you fight all sorts of monsters, you go through this immersive story. Some of them are, you know, straight up survival horrors, some of them are investigative, some of them are murder mysteries. I've had a murder mystery one where you got to figure out who the killer is. Oh, there's so much variety you can do with this, and the expansions just keep coming and coming and coming and giving us different stories, different monsters, fan favorite characters to control as investigators. I've got so much content for this, it's ridiculous, and I haven't even played every scenario in it yet. But oh, so good. The atmospheric music on the app, I only wish that a lot of it more is voice acted. You know, because the prologue and the epilogue is voice acted, but sadly no bits in the story are. I wish it was. That would be like the icing on the cake. But it just, if you love Cthulhu, this game is a must. It's a money sink, yes, but you know, if you want a dungeon crawl that's easy to not necessarily pick up and play, but to get into quickly, because frankly, the app does most of the rules teaching for you. Oh, Love this one. Mansions of Madness 2nd edition completely obliterates the 1st edition, which was only meh for me. It was easy to break. It was like not particularly good with the story and the immersion in that one, but Mansions of Madness 2nd edition is like the poster child for how you can take a game that was kind of meh, kind of on its last legs, and just completely change it and rejuvenate it for the better. Mansions of Madness 2nd edition, my wordy number 6. My number 5 has not moved. It was 5 last year, it was 5 this year. If you thought one earlier was staring you in the face a lot, this one has pretty much been headbutting you in the face. Constantly. This one, you know, people are kind of like, ooh, is this one higher, or is Terraforming Mars higher in the BGG top rankings? I do not care. The BGG rankings don't make sense anyway, but, you know, I couldn't care less if this was at number, whatever, 5 or 6 in the top 100 of BGG, or at 1,000. I still love this Euro game, and I get why some people don't. Go into this thinking it's heavy combat orientated and you'll be disappointed. Go into this with that stupid amount of hype that was for this game and you may be disappointed because no game ever lives up to the hype. But yeah, get my thing in the right place. Yeah, come on. It's been headbutting you since the start of this video. I love Scythe. Scythe is amazing. I love the simplicity of it. When you get to grips with the mechanics, the game flows really smoothly, even with a lot of players who know what they're doing. It's like, take the top action, take the bottom action, choose a different column, top action, bottom action. You're trying to be efficient, build up a resource engine. The factions, they play out very differently. They're asymmetric. The boards you have are asymmetric. The production quality is off the scale, particularly with the like collector's version I've got, which has like the realistic resources and the metal money. The miniatures are great. The expansions have been great with the airships and the other 2 clans. Granted, not an easy game to teach new players. I mean, a new player will pretty much get their butt whipped, you know, in this game because against someone who knows what they're doing. And they might be a little bit slow and hold things up. But once you know it, I've had 90-minute games of this with 7 players, with people who know what they're doing. I'm not joking. This is one of those games that should not take stupidly long to play unless you have someone with AP or multiple people with AP. You know, a lot of these Euro games have to be like 3.5 hours long and take forever. And by the time it even gets halfway, I'm like, I'm bored. Can we get a move on, please? You know, but this one is like 2 hours tops. 2 hours tops to play a game of Scythe. Perfect length, and yet it feels grandiose on the table. You know, I've got multiple ways I can play it, different paths to victory. You know, the encounter cards being different. I've got like a new set of promo encounter cards, which give you all these weird and wonderful choices to pick, not just like the generic ones that the base set had. And that Fenris expansion, gives you a half decent campaign, but the modules it adds, how you can change the end game victory conditions, how you can change the, you know, the layout of the board in some respects, like the extra factions that provides, how you can change your, like, what special bonuses you might have, like infrastructures and mech upgrades. The variety in this game is now off the charts. I adore it. Yes, again, not for everybody. If you're not a fan of Scythe, I'm perfectly okay with that because I can get why you might not like it. But there are people out there who are saying, oh, this game's garbage. It's like a 1 or a 2 out of 10. Excuse me? No. It's like, come on, you got to give it respect if nothing else. I mean, but I suppose that's kind of hypocritical because there are some games I'm probably like that with as well. But, you know, I just adore it. Whether you like it or not is fine. We all like different games. But, oh yeah, we get a chance to play Scythe. I'm like, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? Do I need to teach these players or can I jump into this game of Scythe? The only time I'm hesitant to play it is when I know there's a lot of new players and I know it's going to take a bit longer, particularly if there's too many of them. I mean, if there's brand new players, I'd prefer it if it was like 4 players max. But if everybody's played Scythe before, 5, 6, 7, I'll play it. Give me a faction. I'm better with some than others. But oh yeah, so good. Love it. This box was the original collector's edition, number 104 out of 11,320. But now I have the collector's, like, not collector's, the deluxe, like, big box in the other room that holds all the stuff. I've got an insert for it. I've got the, I think I've got the, do I have a play mat for it? Yes, I have a Scythe play mat for it. Oh, love it. I've really pimped out my copy of Scythe, but, you know, pretty much even the retail copy of Scythe is still really good. I love this game. Great Euro game. Okay, oop, my tablet decided it wanted to go to sleep. No, do not go to sleep. I was talking about good games. Alrighty, number 4. Risen 6 places. Yes, there's a game in my top 10 that's actually rising, not falling. This is a tableau builder game that is not only drop dead gorgeous to look at, like some of the best artwork I've ever seen, but it's simple to teach. It's relatively simple to play, but rewards future plays, you know, lots of tactical decisions. You create cool combos with these like characters that you're buying, and with the 2 expansions for it, it gets better and better. It was already a good high number with its base set, but it did have one element I wasn't a fan of. 1 expansion moved up. With 2 expansions combined, I am Captain Planet. No, you know, this just becomes a number 4 game for me. That is Abyss. I love this game more and more the more that I play it, but a lot of it comes down to those 2 expansions. The base set is great, I love it, but there's one element, the fret track, which was a bit wasn't a huge fan. The Kraken expansion comes in, adds like corruption like currency, so you can take this currency and do cool stuff, but it gives you negative points. I love that mechanic in games. But the Leviathan expansion gives you stuff to like giant Leviathan fish things to fight, and it replaces the fret mechanic in the original game. If you love Abyss and you can get a copy of Leviathan, I hope they reprint it when they do this 5th anniversary reprint of the game. If you can get a copy of Leviathan, do so. It'll be a worthy purchase. But in Abyss, you are kind of, it's almost like the Galactic Senate out of the Star Wars movies. It's an underwater city, and like I say, artwork looks phenomenal, and you are recruiting these lords to your cause. You're trying to be the most influential, like, sort of political figure, the leader of everybody. And these lords are from different factions. They give you special powers when you hire them. But to hire them, you have to get the fish creatures, like the sort of the minions of them. And there's like a faction for shellfish, one for crabs, one for squids, you know, one for seahorses. And the lords do different things, but you recruit the allies, you play them in order to get the lords, you build up a tableau in front of you, and depending on what lords you take, you either have perpetual powers, instant powers, or you get location tiles, which give you endgame scoring opportunities, but nerf the powers that you had, so you've got to be careful about when you get them. It's hard to describe it, and theme-wise, it's kind of like the settings more thematic than the actual mechanics of the game in a sense. But the actions are straightforward. You've got 3 different actions to pick from, basically. Go recruit allies, go seek help from the council, which is like taking a stack of allies, which you're keeping an eye on. It's like, ooh, could I get that stack of yellows over there before he decides he wants to take it? Or recruit lords. The actions are straightforward, there's very little ambiguity in the rules, and as I said, the Kraken expansion and the Leviathan expansion just elevate this game to a level where not only does it basically go from a 9 to a 10, it becomes my 4th favourite game ever. I cannot wait for the next time I play Abyss. I love it that much. There's a sequel game coming out later this year, but it looks kind of abstractish like. You know, it's the same setting, the same artwork, but I'm a bit worried it's going to be like so different from this that I'm not going to be as a massive fan of it, but still looking forward to a sequel in this. And I'll be interested to see if this 5th anniversary reprint makes any tweaks or changes to the game, although I don't know any information about it yet, so I don't know. Bruno's not really released much on it. But yeah, if Abyss comes out to reprint and you have a chance to get this, get it. So much fun. Okay, my number 3 game has risen a single place, and that is my 2nd favourite LCG ever. There's 2 LCGs I'm somewhat sinking my money into, and this one, you know, is a great one. There's a bit of randomness with the whole chaos bag thing, but yeah. Over there is my entire Arkham Horror LCG collection. You've seen pictures of me playing this game. I love it to bits. It's just a solid LCG. Co-op, I play this 90% solo, but occasionally I have played it in like convention settings where we've had the big scenarios where like a group of you do it. I've enjoyed those. The community is great because everybody's like wanting to help each other. I mean, the Ting Con or whatever, This Is Not GridCon that Paul Grogan did earlier in the year, I joined that one, a Labyrinths of Lunacy. I'd never played it before. It was a new scenario for me. Loved it. It was such a great experience. but I was the only experienced one out of my group of 4. The other 3 had pretty much just seen their deck as built by other people, but were just fans of the game and wanted to try something different. So I was effectively like Carolyn Fern, the psychologist, leading the group, not being an alpha player. I was giving them options and saying like, you know, this is what's happening, this is how things are progressing, what do you suggest, what can you do? Do you have anything that could help us with this zombie that's trying to attack me? And they were getting into it. They thanked me afterwards for teaching them it, but I had a blast. It was so much fun, and I can't wait for the next time I get to do that at a convention. It's hugely thematic though. You know, the stories, you play through an 8 cycle, you play through a campaign of 8 scenarios. 2 in a deluxe, 6 with the cycle packs. Each one will feel very different, but the innovation that the guys are coming up with for the level designs with just a bunch of cards. You know, you might have exploring a university with some cards and you've got all the different rooms. The next one you're on a train and you've got a row of cards and you have to go from one carriage to the next as the carriages get sucked away into oblivion behind you. You've got, you know, temples you go through. You've got a hotel where you've got a floor of cards, and an elevator. You have to go into the elevator and go up to the other floor. The ingenuity that comes with the way these stories and scenarios are designed, and they're not all perfect. It's not like every single one's a hit. I have come across duds, and some that are just brutally hard. But, I mean, the game's pretty hard anyway. I only play it on standard mode. Those who play it on hard and expert, seriously, why? I want to enjoy the story, not get butchered. But I've got all the investigators in the world to pick from, so many different deck building opportunities. Deck building is actually simpler in this game than a lot of other games because you only have max 2 copies of a card and your deck size is, what, about 30, 35 or so, you know, typical. And that's a small deck with only so much, you've got a lot of cards to pick from, but when you've only got to have max 2 copies of a card, it just simplifies it, even though I still go onto ARKHAM DB and net deck most of my decks because I don't have a lot of time. But love this one. Super thematic stories, you have story choices that you make that influence your future scenarios. So if you have a choice, do you want to side with the Twilight Lodge or be against them, or do you want to side with them but lie about it? Pick one of those story choices and it will impact future scenarios as the bonuses or penalties you get, or even how your scenario plays out. You know, scenarios can play in multiple different ways. It is such a good game. If the only thing that drops it mildly for me, and this is a mild thing, is the Chaos Bag. It's a bit like rolling a D20 or something and seeing what it does. You know, the bag is, you know what's in the bag, and there are cards that can mitigate it, but yeah, you might have a game where you just constantly draw the wrong tile out of that bag, and you lose because of that. It's a slight nerf on it, but the games are quick enough. I enjoy the story too much, and I only play on standard mode anyway. If you find it too hard, just play it on easy mode, that's fine. But yes, Arkham Horror LCG. I've got the Return to the Path of Carcosa coming in the post any day now. I'm surprised I haven't had it already, but I don't know. Asmodee's taken a while to send it to me as a review copy. We've got the next deluxe set coming out. You know, the Dream Catchers, where you can play multiple different, like a big 8-parter or 2 4-parters. So much content for this game. I love it. Is it my favorite LCG though? No, not quite. But we'll get onto that a little bit later. So that's my number 3, Arkham Horror, the card game, up a place from 4 to 3. And my number 2 Wait, what? What's going on here? What devilry is this? Yeah, the battery on my camera was dying, so I decided to take a break, go to the gym, come back, and when the battery was recharged, get going again, except now it's dark outside, so the lighting is a bit more darker now. But, oh well, I wanted to get this done. I didn't want to leave like number 2 and 1 sort of in the ether until tomorrow evening. I wanted to get it done tonight. So, my number 2. I don't really know how I can build this up without giving it away, so I'm just going to come right out and say it. My number 2 was my number 1. It is Sentinels in the Multiverse.
Kneel before Zod! Kneel before Zod!
You're quite finished? Quite finished destroying the world and everything like that? Yes, okay. Sentinels in the Multiverse has been my number 1 since I started doing the top 100 list. It has been a phenomenal game. It still is a phenomenal game. I still love this co-op to bits. A superhero co-op where I can be my own superhero, my own deck. I don't have to deck build. And it has the proper comic book style artwork. It has so much variety, easy to play. requires a bit of admin bookkeeping, but I've gotten used to that now, so I can deal with it. You know, it is still a game I adore. Does it really matter that it's not my number one game anymore? You know, there's a good reason why my number one is now my number one, but come on, 1, 2, what does it matter? I've had this rated a 10 since the moment I played it, and I still love it to this day. I have the collector's set in the other room. It is still fantastic. I love it, I love it, I love it. Sentinels in the Multiverse, straight up co-op. You and your band of superheroes, each with your own deck and character card, are going up against a supervillain. The supervillain has its own deck, you're in an environment which has its own deck, and essentially you play it in turn order of villain, heroes, environment. Rinse, repeat. Cards come off the deck, you draw cards, you play cards, you use powers of your various cards and character abilities, and you're trying to kill off, kill off the, villain's minions, if he has any, or just simply trying to take them out. But all the villains play out very differently. I mean, you've got one that's like a group of Egyptian gods, you've got, the Thanos equivalent, you've got, I'm trying to think of special ones. You've got a chairman of an underworld organization. You can't even touch him until you take out his sword-wielding, sidekick and get through the ranks. You've got Baron Blade, effectively Lex Luthor, and all the heroes are kind of parodies of, people in real life, or at least the majority of them are. Legacy is clearly a Captain America Superman wannabe. Bunker is clearly an Iron Man wannabe. Wraith is clearly a Batgirl, Tachyon is clearly the Flash. There's some of them that are more unique, but a lot of them you can tie back to various Marvel and DC properties. But I like that, because then I can say to people when I teach them this game, okay, who's your favourite superhero? Aquaman. Alright then, well, here's, what's his name? I've forgotten his name now. Oh, Christ. Oh, Tempest. That's it, yeah. Here's Tempest. Here's the equivalent of Aquaman. And they can have fun playing the game. And the bookkeeping side, yes, I admit, the bookkeeping side is a bit fiddly. I don't think the game's flawless. But I can deal with that admin bookkeeping. There are apps to help with that. You only need one person to keep track of that sort of thing. The rest of the players can just enjoy the game. And if the tabletop version's not enough for you, then you can always try the app. The app made by the same company, I believe, was it the same company? I can't remember, but the Sentinels in the Multiverse, the game app is fantastic. It handles all the bookkeeping stuff for you, so you can spend more time thinking about what cards you have, when you're going to play them, and just watching the cool animations on screen. If you don't like the card game version, then play the app at least, because the app is just that good. For many, it has replaced the card game. I still have the card game out there, but I would happily play either. I just came back from Tabletop Scotland, and I was playing Through the Ages, Star Realms, and Sentinels in the Multiverse on my way back. It just is one of those. I love it. I am a superhero fan. I'm not saying I'm a nut. A superhero fan. I like the movies. I like the IPs. I haven't read the comics. I don't know every bit of lore about each hero, but I just love superheroes in general. Such a good card game. It's not my number one anymore, but it's my number two. What does it matter? You tell me that I had to live on a desert island and all I could take was my top 3 games. I'd be content. I would live out the rest of my days just playing these 3. So the question is, some of you probably have figured it out, but in case some of you are new, what game could possibly dethrone Sentinels in the Multiverse? And my number 1. Yep. You've seen it on this list before. Last year it was my number 3. It's now my number 1. And there's good reasons for that. It's also been staring you in the face the entire video. It can't be knocked. I love it to bits. I love it. Whoop, gotta go over there. Or better still, you could just look at that one. Yeah. Lord of the Rings, the card game. Was my number 3. I don't know if it's ever been my number 2. I think it's always been my number 3. And now it's my number 1. And there's a good reason for it. Firstly, the obvious reason, I love the game. Okay, I love playing this game. But when I was doing the ranking, I had to think, right, Sentinels in the Multiverse, is it still my number 1? Is there any game that possibly pips it? And I thought, well, others have been fighting for it. What is it about these games that could make it my number 1? The unique selling point about this one, and Arkham Horror has it to an extent, but this one especially. When I think of Sentinels in the Multiverse, I know it's a fantastic game. I really want to play it, But I'm sort of like, oh, is that an option? Oh yeah, come on, let's please play it. And I'm like, oh, I would love to get it to the table at some point, but that's kind of my extent. Lord of the Rings, lunchtimes at work, I am looking up RingsDB for decks. I am looking at decks. I am like, I really want to play this deck. I want to play an Elvish deck. I want to play a Dwarf deck. I want to go through this saga. I want to go through these quests. I want to try this quest again. I want to do a campaign through the entire Lord of the Rings movies. For it to be in my head as often as that has to propel it to number one. You know, because I love playing this game. Yes, there can be dud scenarios, and yes, you can have bad games, but you know, for the most part, I just can't wait to get this to the table. I love when I've got a deck, like a Hobbit deck. I've got a Fellowship deck at the moment, and I've played other decks through different sagas. You play through, I think, 9 in total, like 9 scenarios, 3 from a deluxe, and then 6 more. And it plays out a cool story. It's an interesting story, not like, you know, we're not talking Oscar-winning like writing here, but it's a decent enough, you know, immersive story. But the scenarios play out very differently. There's been a lot of different designs. I mean, the last cycle we just had was, well, actually, no, forget the last cycle. The last cycle was amazing, but the recent one, Shadows of the East, my review's already out for that. The 3 scenarios in that. First one, you're being pursued by a bunch of Easterling warriors, and you have to sort of take them out while trying to get away. Second one is kind of like a mystery, a detective story. You know, it's got, you're in this town and there's some cultist stuff going on. You got to try and find out where the cult is and, you know, dispatch a leader. The leader will be different each game, and the, you know, how you find it is done by a different method than just simply hack and slashing. And then the third scenario is a pretty tough one, but it involves you basically preparing for the first 2 turns outside this huge temple. Nothing attacks you. You just get 2 turns to prepare. Then you got to dive into what is effectively the Temple of Doom that has a timer running of people being sacrificed, and you have to deal with the various quest stages that will come in a different order, and then eventually the final boss, which is apparently a boss from a previous saga. They do such great things with these quests, but it's definitely harder to deck build for, and it has one of the worst core sets in history. You know, the core set for this one really needs a 2nd edition version, you know, to balance out the quest difficulties, but, you know, most people who get into this game are going to get the core set and some other quests, and I do recommend you do that. But, oh yes, I'm always thinking about this game. I'm always like, oh, I want to play this game. I want to play a Dwarf deck. Oh, I want to build this deck. And then I look at RingsDB, look at those ideas, like what's popular at the time, and I go, oh, Season's made a new Hobbit deck. Yes, I want to try that. Oh, but he's made a Hobbit deck. That's quite cool. But, oh, there's a Sylvan Elf deck and a Noldor deck and a Dale deck. It's, and always going through my head. I'm always wanting to play it, and that kind of thing has to propel this to my number 1. And you know, and that's before you even get to the fact that when I'm playing it, I love it. I get my tablet and I put on a Lord of the Rings trilogy soundtrack. Not kidding, like the full trilogy. I run through the entire soundtrack while playing several scenarios of the Lord of the Rings things, because it feels immersive. It's thematic. You've got lots of strategic decisions to make as to how you build your deck, but then you've got a lot of tactical decisions in the scenario. As more and more enemies come out, can you defend against them? If you've got a clear spell, do you then push on with the quest, or do you sit back, take it slow, and consider building your forces up before you advance to the next quest? You know, you can kind of elongate and shorten the timer of the game as much as you like, but of course you've got the overarching timer of your threat track going up and up and up, and if it hits the top mark you automatically lose. It's just such an amazing game. I mean, I love the Lord of the Rings theme and intellectual property anyway. I love the movies. You know, I've got Journeys in Middle-earth, the card game. Not every Lord of the Rings game I love. I mean, it's like, I mean, the original co-op's kind of pretty abstract, and there have been some god-awful like deck building and dice building ones with Lord of the Rings licenses, but I can't say anything bad really about Journeys in Middle-earth, and I definitely can say very little bad about, well, you know what I mean. There's like, any problems I have with the game are niggles or stuff I've gotten over. I can't deny that if you put me on a desert island with Lord of the Rings LCG, Arkham Horror LCG, and Sentinels in the Multiverse, I would have more than enough variety to keep me going until the day I die. It's fantastic. If you're considering getting into this LCG, like I said, get the core set and probably start on the cycle, the first cycle early, or first even, or maybe like a saga pack, you know, one of the movie packs, because They give you deck ideas on what to build, but also because the core set is not the best introduction. If you know someone who plays the game, then get them to teach you it. Get them to put you into a different scenario with 2 decks that they've built and, run through it with them. That would probably be a better way. But, just talking about it makes me want to play it now. I want to play it now. That's how much I love this game. And, as much as it's like on par with like Sentinels and the Multiverse in terms of how much I love it, I have to accept that which game am I thinking about more during the year, it's Lord of the Rings, not the Sentinels and the Multiverse one. So that had to propel it up to the #1 spot to dethrone Sentinels and the Multiverse down to my #2. Like, that's the biggest calamity that could possibly happen. But yeah, deserved. That's it, guys. Yep, 100 awesome games that I just love to talk about. And we culminate with my 10. Just to reminisce, Hanami Koji, 7 Wonders Duel, Dinosaur Island, Viticulture, Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, SCYTHE, Abyss, Arkham Horror LCG, Sentinels in the Multiverse, and Lord of the Rings LCG, my top 10 games of all time. Are they going to be the same 10 next year? Is there going to be changes? Is some new ones going to come in? Who knows? These are some big games to dethrone, though, so who knows? Anything could happen by the time we get to 2020 August time. But for now, there is only one more video to do, the Aftermath. Now, the Aftermath is probably going to be in the format of a vlog more than a full video like this, because I just want to literally go through it pretty quickly. Just to go through everything that was in the 101 to 185 or something like that. Just to go over those games very quickly. But a couple of little stats before I sign off. Put it this way, I did a spreadsheet, proper spreadsheet of the whole top 100 list. And, I know what's come on, what the rankings are, which publishers are common, which designers are common. Yeah, there's been co-designers on games, but I'm talking about lead designers. And, just as a reminder, 25 games fell off the list, 23 joined the list, and 2 returned to the list. And let's go through my top 3 publishers and designers. So, in terms of publishers, well, I think you didn't really need to count that hard, did you? Yeah, Fantasy Flight Games, 14 games from them are on my top 100. They've made a lot of games, and I do like what they do. Granted, their sales model could use a bit of tweaking, but, Star Wars Rebellion, Forbidden Stars, XCOM, Mission Red Planet, Star Wars Outer Rim, Civilization, Chaos in the Old World, which wasn't even on the top 100. That's probably a bad example then. New Angeles, Mansions of Madness, Cosmic Encounter, A Journey to Middle-earth, Lord of the Rings, Arkham Horror. They just really hit it out of the park with me with these thematic, fun games, And granted, some of that is down to the licensing. They have Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and Cthulhu. I love those intellectual properties. That does have a factor into it. But then consider Mission Red Planet and XCOM and Forbidden Stars don't use those licenses. I'm not the biggest Warhammer 40k fan. I used to play models of it a while back, but I'm not as fussed about it. XCOM, I've played the computer games, but that's about it. And Mission Red Planet doesn't even have an intellectual property assigned to it. So, there are exceptions to the rule, but can't deny that FFG just really do put out a lot of stuff I love. Second place was Portal Games, and this is quite a jump for them actually, because I think last year they barely had 2. I think they had 3. No, they had 3 I think on my list: Imperial Settlers, First Martians, and Robinson Crusoe. But this year it's now gone up to 5 because as well as those 3, they've got Empires of the North and Detected behind me there. So credit where it's due, Ignacy Dravidit. Portal is really putting out some good stuff I like, some really good thematic titles, and I can't get enough of them. They're just solid. They introduce... They're not necessarily always the most thematic titles. Imperial Settlers and Empires of the North have got some theme, but they're engine builders at the end of the day. But then they can make fun mechanical games they feel streamlined, they feel like easier to get into, they have great solo modes. And then on the other end of the scale, you've got the thematic stuff like Detective and First Martians, Robinson Crusoe. And I am definitely looking forward to Predaporter when it comes out in the next month or 2, or when the Kickstarter finishes. I think it's in the next month or 2. I'm expecting a review copy of that. But yeah, I can't wait to try that. A heavy game about the fashion industry? Haven't seen that before. It's a very unique theme. Can it be done justice? Let's hope so, but I got high hopes with Portal behind the wheel. And third place was Eagle Griffin Games. Eagle Griffin, 4 games to their note. Although it's technically a tie, actually. Eagle Griffin had 4, so did Days of Wonder. The only thing with Eagle Griffin having 4 games to the name, though, is that they're all by the same designer. You know, it's all Vital Lacerda. It's, you know, I mean, we've got the Gallerist, Lisboa, Vinos, and there's one other. Pretty certain there's one other on this list I am forgetting. What is the other one? Oh, yeah, Lisboa. So, no, wait a minute. Gallerist, Lisboa. Oh, Kanban. No, that's not Eagle Griffin either. What's the other Eagle Griffin game then? I need to check this out. Something's not right here. They have got 4 games on this list though, so something else is Eagle Griffin. I'm going to find this out before I wrap this video up. I guarantee you. What is up with this? Eagle Griffin, come on. Okay. In that case, I've made a slight error. In that case, third place goes to Days of Wonder. I've accidentally put Kanban as Eagle Griffin because Eagle Griffin are doing the reprint, but it's Stronghold Games. So, oh well, sorry, I stand corrected. I know when I'm wrong. And I'll definitely instead go with Days of Wonder. Yeah, Days of Wonder. So, what have we got here? We got Quadropolis, 5 Tribes, Yamatai, and Ticket to Ride. I think they're the ones that feature on my top 100. But their games in general are just great. I mean, like Cleopatra and the Society of Architects is brilliant. That didn't make the top 100, but I still love it. Might shoot back on the list with the reprint, though. And in general, all their games are just good fun. They may not necessarily be top 100 titles for me, but they're always still good fun, and they put out good quality, good, well-produced games, and they don't put them out as often. They don't just churn the wheel and stick them out like other publishers do. So, and they work great for a range of people, from gamers to families to gateway gamers. They cover the whole range without getting into stupidly heavy territory. So, gotta give props. Days of Wonder, the actual number 3 publisher on my list. And with everything going a little bit dark, I'm going to quickly go through this next bit. I'll go in the opposite order though. Third place for design. In fact, there's a lot of ties on this one, so you're going to have to bear with that. Tied in third place are 3 designers. Uri Rosenberg, Ryan Lockett, and Corey Kineska. Those have 3 games to their name on my list. Corey Kineska does a lot of great sort of Star Wars themed games with Fantasy Flight. Ryan Lockett, well, Red Raven games, you know, Near and Far, and Near and Far and Empires of the Void in the Ancient World, 3 hot titles, and obviously Sleeping Gods coming out in the near future. Could be 4 games on this list, you never know. And of course, Uwe Rosenberg, Fields of All, Caverner, and come on. Oh my god, I am brain farting today. K-Farmers, Fields of All. Oh, and Feast for Odin. That's it. Yeah, Feast for Odin. 3 hot titles. I can't see any extra Uwe Rosenberg games hitting the top 100 unless he comes out with something new. Certainly all the other ones that I've played I don't think are going to wow me as much. Although, I have not played at the gates of Yoyang, or whatever it's called, nor Aura and the Borer. So if somebody wants to teach me those 2 games, I'd be interested to try them, and maybe they could be top 100 games. You never know. And then second place on their lonesome is, we just mentioned him actually, Vital Lacerda. Vital Lacerda, Lisboa, Gallerist, Kanban, and, you know, Vinos. You know, 4 great heavy games with good helpings of theme, even if there are some abstracted elements to them. I do like some heavy games, guys. It's just some designers are better than others for me. And for me, Vital Lacerda is definitely one of the guys who just sort of, not all the time, I mean, I don't like Escape Plan, I don't like CO2, but for the majority of his games, they just sing to me in what I want from a good, meaty Euro. And then finally, joint first place is Antoine Boza, Bruno Kafala, and Ignacy Trevicek. Those 3 designers both have 5 games to their names on my list. Now, granted, it's kind of a bit weird with the Bruno Kafala and Antoine Boza thing because, like I say, I did not go for like co-designers on games. I just went for the lead designers. And I know that Seven Wonders Duel is on my list here as Antoine Boza, but I know Bruno Kafala kind of co-designed it as well. So, and I'm not entirely sure which one of them had more rights than the other, to be honest. So you can kind of balance out the 2 however you see fit. But like I say, they have produced great stuff. I mean, you've got Yamatai, you got 5 Tribes. I'm trying to think of the other ones off the top of my head. It's hard for me to remember these things, but just looking at my list, I know there's got to be more around somewhere. Or I could just look at my tablet. Maybe that would be a better idea. So, Bruno Kafala. Let's have a look for your name, Sonny. Bruno Kafala. We already had 5 tribes. We already had Yamatai. What else we got? Oh no, Cleopatra and the Society of Architects did make the list. Oh, okay, so yeah, I mean, there's one of his games there. A really good one. Trying to think. Then we got 5 tribes. Then we've got Yamatai. Yes, we know about Yamatai. Mission and Red Planet, 2nd edition. Oh yeah, and of course, Abyss. How can I forget? He did Abyss. Moron, Luke. I think we can tell that my mind is kind of on shut-off mode, so not much longer. And of course, Ignacy Trzewiczek, well, you know the 5 games. You know, First Martians, Detective, Imperial Settlers, Empires in the North, Robinson Crusoe. Could Predator make the list? We'll find out. So yeah, I mean, these are just like some random stats I've pulled together, but there's a lot of designers on my list. There's a lot of publishers on my list. Even if they've only featured once, there's still a lot of different people on here. And like I say, which ones met my culling process? Well, you'll have to wait for my vlog episode where I talk more about that in sort of rough detail. But for now, with lights going off and everything, I'm going to wrap up this Tap 100 for good. So, you know, just especially as it's somewhat warm in here again. Honestly, one more day of this heat wave and then it should revert back to normal temperatures and then maybe I can cool this place down a bit. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being as enthusiastic as me about watching these videos, commenting on the games that weren't on there, you know, my opinions, how I do the videos, etc. Thank you for being with me every step of the way. I mean, the viewership on these videos has dwarfed what it was last year, and I would love to see it go even higher next year. You know, I can see the blog is growing in general, and certainly people have been very nice to me about like games that they found on this list that they're like, oh yeah, I want to try that, or I'm going to go search that game out. Brilliant. You might search the game out and think it's a pile of garbage, but at least you're trying new games, and that makes me feel good. So that's it for me. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple video, review, solo play, or Tap 10. We'll go back to the Tap 10s now. So, you know, I don't know what the next one will be. I'm going to get the Patreons to vote on it soon. But yeah, you know, normal service is reviewing now that we're getting into the autumn time, heading up to Essen. Oh boy, it's going to be a busy time ahead because Essen is always a bit of a nightmare. I think maybe you'll expect a few more anthology videos to follow post-Essen because of the sheer number of releases that come out. But like I say, that's for another day. So time to head off. Take care, and remember, as always, my motto, it's only a game. I'll see you next time.